Hi, everybody. Welcome in, sorry, to the week 11 waiver wire live stream. It is me here. It is Lauren Carpenter there, back again to give you the best possible waiver wire advice as we head into, I guess, the home stretch here, Lauren. It's weird. It feels like the season is equally long and also over in like the blink of an eye. Do you ever feel that way?
It's incredible because it feels like we waited so long over the summer and it's like, "Oh my god, it's week 11?" Like,
Yeah.
where did the time go? It's nuts. But then when you're in season, it's like, "Okay, well, maybe there's next week. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe there's next week." And we're slowly running out of those. And that's
I
sad.
know we obviously have the extra week this week because of the additional week of the NFL schedule. So I am still at a point where it'd be like in a normal league, in my favorite league, I'd be out of the playoffs at this point. But I'm still like, well, there's a chance. I've got that extra week. I could still make it happen. But we've got to do some work. We're going to do some work. Before we do, let me remind you about our Sunday morning live streams at noon. If you guys stop by this Sunday morning or last Sunday morning, you would have seen me get more likes than Joe got in his live stream. You will not be seeing that this week. Yates is going to be back, the triumphant return after his leave for having a new gorgeous baby boy. He'll be back on noon. We're going to be giving away a signed Amari Cooper Dallas Cowboys jersey live on that stream. So that's what you want to do. Tune in on Sunday morning, this Sunday, November 21st at noon to Yates's live stream. All you got to do to be entered is subscribe to this YouTube channel here at youtube.com/fantasypros before the 12 p.m. live stream. And then ask a fantasy related question in the chat and YouTube during that live stream. That's it. We'll announce a giveaway winner at the end of the live stream, as we did this past week. So super easy. Again, just subscribe and then ask a fantasy related question in there. Lauren, let's get to it. We've got
Let's
some
do it.
running. Let's start with running back, as we always do. That's where people need help always at the most. So who is your number one running back pickup this week?
Okay, this is tough because I actually have 3 that I really like.
Ooh.
But I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna do a little bit more season-long longevity here as my number 1, and I'm gonna go Ramondre Stevenson, one of the running backs for the New England Patriots. And I understand that the New England backfield is always considered very murky, but I feel like it's become a little bit clearer even with Damian Harris on the field, as well as when Damian Harris missed an entire game and Ramondre Stevenson had 100 yards rushing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. He was awesome. And I
Yeah.
faded him a little bit this week. I mean, I think we had question marks coming into the week, right?
Yeah,
Because
because concussion.
we didn't know if he was going to suit up, let
The head
alone,
injury. Like,
I
how
know.
dramatic can you get? Like, not concussion protocol, head trauma. Like,
And
that's
even
serious.
even running at the start of the game, like with the starters in practice, was Brandon Bolden, not Stevenson, and then he came
Mhm.
through in spades. So there's a couple things. Number one, again, this is Tuesday at 1 o'clock, so we don't know the status of Damian Harris yet. I know yesterday he was estimated that it did not practice, but it was estimated because they have a Thursday night game. That suggests to me, Lauren, that it's going to be very difficult for Harris to turn around and clear concussion protocol and be up to speed. So I think most likely you're looking at probably a guy who you can start as, I mean, if there is no Damian Harris, where do you think you'll want to start Ramondre Stevenson this week? He's got to be almost a borderline RB1 against the Falcons on Thursday, don't you think?
I think so. I have no problem firing up Reminder Stevenson, and I would do it with confidence.
And what do you think happens when Damian Harris comes back? Is this a split backfield? Do you think Stevenson is even could have earned the lion's share of the role or what?
I'm not sure about lion's share. I think that's still going to be towards Damian Harris. But I think what we're likely going to see more often than not is Damian Harris being part of that goal line type of identity, which kind of stinks for Ramondre Stevenson. And then Ramondre Stevenson is going to have all the touches between the 20s. I kind of feel like that's the trend that we're going to see. Obviously, there's going to be switching around between those two roles, but I think it'll be a split backfield. But I don't necessarily think it's going to turn both running backs fantasy irrelevant. I kind of want to see it more as like a Melvin Gordon, Javante Williams type of split here, where
Yep.
they're both going to be fantasy productive.
Yeah, Stevenson is my number one pickup, both because I do think that he can provide value in the short term, as in this Thursday. And I do think that worst case scenario, he's probably going to be a viable flex play going forward. Don't forget, by the way, early in the season, Damian Harris lost 2 pretty critical fumbles that
Mm.
might have lost him his job had the Patriots felt more comfortable in the other options in the backfield. Now that Stevenson is sort of there, and again, he factors into the passing game way more than
I
Harris ever
know,
did,
right?
right? By the way, that surprises me. I did not see that coming from his college days or anything coming into this. But the fact is, he's a pretty decent pass catcher right now out of the backfield. And that should basically give him a decent floor even when Harris returns. So I think we're in agreement here. Stevenson is our number one. You mentioned two other guys that you were
Mm.
looking at as well. So go ahead and talk about those.
Well, the one that I like the best out of the remaining two, actually speaking to the Thursday game here, we have a situation with the Falcons, and this is not good because Cordell Patterson has a sprained ankle, and Mike Davis, that experiment is over. In fact, he was benched halfway through the game, and it's Wayne Gallman. Of all the names that we're talking about here this season,
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Gallman is another one. And I really like what he was able to do filling in for Saquon Barkley with the Giants. I think was that last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember, but he's good. All right, he's not one of those explosive backs that is gonna be an RB1 somewhere eventually one day. That's just not really how it works. But what he's doing is he's filling in a necessity. There is a role, there's a void that must be filled, and for me, that's going to be Wayne Gallman. In fact, he had 15 carries for 55 yards. And he had 2 targets, 1 reception, and 21 yards. And it's only a matter of time before one of those hits the red zone here, especially with Cordell Patterson out. So the volume there is just, it's going to happen. So literally, I have 2 running backs that I'm picking up that are both likely to be an auto start come Thursday.
So let's talk a little bit about Gallman here, because without Cordero Patterson, I feel like the Patriots, you know what they like to do. You know what Belichick likes to do. He likes to take away your best option if it's your only option. That means I imagine that Kyle Pitts is going
Yep.
to see just nonstop coverage.
Everyone.
And you'd have to assume then that Gallman and or Mike Davis. I mean, what do you really expect right now with Patterson out? Do you think it's going to be just all Gallman all the time? Do you think he's going to split work with Mike Davis, or what would you think this Thursday?
I would say like 70-30 in favor of Wayne Gallman. I really
Okay.
do. I think it's going to be Mike Davis coming in on a water break, Mike Davis coming in on kind of like random plays here and there. But I think Wayne Gallman's going to be that featured back. I mean, they literally benched Mike Davis. They were like, nah, bench. And then Wayne
Yeah.
Gallman came in and did well. So there's that going. I mean, Mike Davis really has he shown us anything ultra
No.
spectacular that says that he's going to need to be, the one in front of Wayne Gallman? No, but Wayne Gallman came in and he actually showed us a little bit of production there. So yeah, I mean, they are going to use him simply because they have to. But I believe this is going to be a Wayne Gallman show now because it's Thursday and because it's fantasy football. This is
Yep.
likely means the opposite because that's just how it goes.
Yeah, it is true that Thursdays are by far the most difficult sort of games to get a
So
sense of how they're going
frustrating.
to unfold. Right. The one thing I'll say again is the Patriots, they do have a very solid defense, but you even saw it against Cleveland where they allowed just 7 points. They're much tougher against the pass than they are the run. So somebody like Gallman certainly could find success here. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to see. I'm not 100% convinced that the benching of Mike Davis and the going to Wayne Gallman was the fact that the Falcons were down by 30 points for much of the game. But I do agree with you. He is my number 2 pickup as well, behind Ramondre
Yep.
Stevenson. Let's see if we can go 3 for 3. Who's your third guy that you're looking at?
It's going to be Deontay Foreman. So I said previously that the Mike Davis experiment failed. The Jeremy McNichols experiment is also over. He
Yeah.
dropped a very critical touchdown pass there against a team that is actually very poor against pass catching running backs. He was not able to get it done. And Bryce Tannehill just didn't look his way. In fact, it was to Marcus Johnson, the wide receiver, formerly of the Colts. So that's it's really a weird situation going on there. And when Deontay Foreman was on the field, he looked better than Adrian Peterson. So for me, my number 3 guy here is going to be Deontay Foreman. Now, I don't necessarily think that he is going to be competing for as many touches as we're looking at between Stevenson with Harris out, and also who did I just say? My brain is fried. Wayne Gallman with
Wayne
everyone else
Gallman.
out.
Sorry.
This
Yep.
is my 4th show today, everybody. I'm very
You're
sorry, and I'm
okay.
also
You're
very,
crushing
very
it.
tired.
You're
I know.
crushing it.
Thank
Keep
you.
going.
Story
You're
of my
welcome.
life. My hair's not. I haven't washed my hair in like 4 or 5 days, so pay no attention. Don't look too closely. But Deontay Foreman, I liked him. He passed the eyeball test for me. And again, he's going to be a little bit more touchdown dependent when it comes to explosive fantasy production. But I do like Deontay Foreman too. And that's another name. Can you believe we're talking about Adrian Peterson, Deontay Foreman, and Wayne Gallman? And then Devontae
Yeah.
Freeman might still be out there, which is another weird one with the Ravens. Did you see they just released Le'Veon Bell?
I did see that, and we should
What?
announce that. Le'Veon Bell out. I wonder if that means that Latavius Murray's healthy enough to return here. I mean, maybe it just could mean that. But regardless, you don't really need to be worrying about Le'Veon Bell. I am in agreement with you for the third straight time, Lauren. I do have Foreman as
It's because
my
I'm always
RB3.
right, Dan.
I do not disagree. So for me,
Obvi.
Wayne, he was my second before the Cordero Patterson ankle
Mm-hmm.
injury sounded like it was going to cost him. Because I
Same.
do think the problem I think with Foreman is twofold. The first is that I don't
Just
really
two?
know, just two. Because I actually love what I've seen from him. Like
Yeah,
I
same.
think he's been
Same.
fantastic actually out there, and he's very clearly the most explosive back in that
hmm
backfield. The
He
two
looks
problems
better
that
than he ever has. It's
he
like
does,
it's
he
pretty
does.
awesome. Like,
No, it's great. And
yes.
remember, he was pretty heralded when he came out
Yes.
and just never happened. The two issues that I see with him are number one, Tennessee just keeps winning. So I don't
hmm
really see them having this overall thought of like, man, we've got to really turn it over to Foreman and get more explosive in the backfield. Like they're going to make the playoffs. They're on track to be the number one seed right now in the playoffs. They are getting by with giving 8 to 10 touches to Adrian Peterson and then another few to Jeremy McNichols. I'm not sure they need to necessarily turn it over to him. And the second thing is just that I think if you are going to the playoffs like that, regardless of the need to win, you probably know that you're gonna need Foreman once you get there, like right,
hmm
because you're looking at him. So again, another reason to not go crazy and turn everything over to him. But I do think, all that said, all the negatives said, I do think that when you have a guy who's so very clearly the best back in the backfield, which he is. Like you watch that game, who I don't care about the numbers. Like you watch that game, you know exactly what you're looking at. You got Adam, and it's possible that he'll explode this week against Houston. Great matchup. But even if not, long term, I think you're right. Gallman more of the short term play,
hmm
and Foreman more of the long term play. So we are in agreement. I'm going to throw out a bunch of other running back names for you. You let me know if you have any interest in any of them. Benjamin, Ty
Eh,
Johnson. You want to go one by one? Benjamin.
eh,
Eh.
eh.
All right.
I'll
I'll
give
take
him
it.
I'll give him an honorable mention, like a nod. The
Yeah.
game script just was not there. Even James Conner had a horrible game, so it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to judge for me. Again, I'm going to stick with those three we already mentioned.
Yeah. I think that you are correct. Is somebody who could factor in. They go against the Seahawks right now. The Seahawks do give up a ton of points to opposing running backs, but they're actually pretty decent against the run, and they've been much better of late. So in this game, probably without Kyler Murray, then you have a bye. Then maybe Chase Edmonds comes back. It's hard to see, having too much of a role going forward. How
hmm
about Ty Johnson of the Jets? Again, 8 targets, 5 catches this past game. Any interest in him?
The Jets, no. I mean, I do.
There,
I like Ty Johnson, but the problem is we have Zach Wilson coming back, so
right.
we really don't know exactly what's going to be happening with, especially Ty Johnson as the pass catching back. No, I think if I already have him on my team, I'm hanging on to him, but I'm not using a waiver claim or fab to go get him.
How about the fact that, again, just said it, Le'Veon Bell released, that probably suggests that Latavius Murray may be coming back. If so, any interest?
I do if you're desperate for running back because he always has that touchdown that he gets almost every week when he's on the field. I don't love it because I feel the majority of the touches go to Devonta Freeman.
Yeah, I do think that Freeman has earned sort of more of a role here going forward, regardless of Latavius Murray's health. I do think he should be added because it's possible they go back to him, and
hmm
certainly possible that Freeman gets injured and everything like that. But he's not someone I want to rely on. Last guy, barely played, but did score 2 touchdowns against the Jets. That's Matt Breida, part of a very crowded backfield. Yeah, there's
No,
nothing there, right?
no, stay away from the Bills' backfield. Just do yourselves a favor and trade them away now if you can, because this is a mess. No, don't do it. No, no,
He's
no, no,
he's
no, no.
he's
Matt
rostered.
Breida, another name. Like, what is
Yeah,
going on?
he's rostered in 0.1% of leagues. So I
There's a
think we can say
reason.
there's probably too high there. Everybody move on there, and the 6 people that roster him. All right, let's go to wide receiver. A couple of intriguing names here. I was on the Waiver Wire podcast. Joe and I were debating a couple. So interested to hear who you like as your top wide receiver ad this week.
All right, if at all possible, if Darnell Mooney is available,
Hmm.
he's a very explosive name that I like, especially now that Justin Fields feels a lot more comfortable with his NFL legs underneath him, if you will, and the training wheels are off. He also had a rushing touchdown. He, meaning Darnell Mooney, had a rushing
Yep.
touchdown. Very exciting, and they're using him in explosive ways, and I like that. I like that a lot. So Darnell Mooney, another name, also Michael Gallup, if he is somehow available as well. Any piece that you can get of that explosive Cowboys offense, I would do.
Yeah, both those guys are rostered in roughly 50% of leagues. So they're out there in a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially Mooney coming off a bye when you had to do.
Yep.
Those are my top two guys as well, Lauren. I think what we saw from Gallup is very encouraging,
Yes.
considering it was his first game back. Still got 5 targets, 3 catches. He was playing a ton. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb got a little banged up in that game. Sounds like he should be fine. He called it essentially a Charlie horse. So hopefully he keeps going and is fine. But even with all of those guys out there, I think there's room for all three, especially against the Chiefs right now, which is going to be what It's a game with a 55-point, total at that one,
I
right?
do want to bring up a note though, is that so CeeDee Lamb had in his arm Charlie horse, as you
Yeah.
called it. They called it the contusion.
Yeah.
I need to use that more in my vernacular. So it sounds so much more serious than it actually is. Like when I eventually bang my hip on the side of the table, which I do daily, I can be like, I have a hip contusion. Doesn't that sound super serious?
I
Like
really like it.
I need
Yeah.
this in my life. Baker Mayfield had the same issue with a knee contusion. Like that
Yeah.
sounds very devastating.
I think it's really a bruise, but I think when you call it a contusion, it gets
Right?
very exciting. And
It
look,
does.
it brings up a good point. My son is battling a severe knee injury, and by a severe knee injury, I mean I think he's faking because he like won't go up and down stairs anymore. But I think they get very excited, both kids, when you come up with names for injuries, right? They're like, "Oh, did I
Yes.
sprain it? Wow, tell me what a sprain means." So I'm just gonna say I think you have a knee contusion, and he's gonna
Contusion.
be very excited.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
he's going to be he's going to want crutches, like the whole 9 yards. Oh, you have to tell me what happens with this.
Yeah, well, thoughts up for CeeDee Lamb getting over the contusion, but yeah, he should be okay going forward. But again, there is room for Gallup, and you mentioned Mooney. That's a guy who I want as well. Again, Mooney really has been seeing the targets for quite a while at this point.
Mhm.
He just hasn't been able to do all that much with it because he has been held back by the lack of production of Justin Fields. But the last two games, Fields has really looked like he is starting to take a little bit of a step forward, and that's going to mean good things for Mooney. And you mentioned the rushing touchdown as well. They want to get him involved. It is him,
Mhm.
not Allen Robinson, who is the
Mm.
guy, right? So
Mm.
this is where I think, Baltimore can be beaten. Certainly, you saw that last week.
Yep.
Their defense is nothing special, so that's what they got this week. I agree. Those are my top two. Anybody else you're looking at wide receiver who you think might be able to help you?
Okay, there is one name I think is a little spicy, and he has already disappointed a lot of people so far this season, but it's Robbie Anderson. And with Cam Newton back as quarterback, I mean, head coach Matt Rule hasn't come out and officially stated who his starting quarterback is going to be. Wink, wink.
Hmm.
I mean, we all know it's
Right.
going to be Cam Newton. Come on, stop it.
Yep.
They didn't pay him that much money to like let him sit on the bench. No, that's not. No. So he in his post game press conference, he actually had Robbie Anderson on with him, and they were like chatting like they're
I did
best
see that. Yeah.
friends, and they're
Yeah.
like doing the selfies together. Like it was really, it was cute. It was cute.
Yeah.
Besties for Evs. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think Robbie Anderson is going to have a little bit more production with Cam as their quarterback. Again, I think he's going to be a little boom or bust. I don't think it's going to be
Sure.
this huge jump in target share, but Cam Newton is going to look for him. So that is something that is very interesting for me. And another one is Brian Edwards. That is finally, after he gave us a huge goose egg, the Raiders really need to figure out what they're doing with their offense here. And it's really of no fault of their own, but between what happened with John Gruden and everything with Henry Ruggs, they really have to try to figure out their lives. And they just added Deshaun Jackson too, which helps stretch the field. Hunter Renfrow is always going to be the target monster as well as Darren Waller. But when defenses can shut those two down, by default, you have someone who's talented like Brian Edwards, who did see, I don't want to say a ton of targets, but he saw enough targets in the red zone to make it worth your fantasy day. Still boom or bust for me though.
I like both those options, really. And I think that fantasy managers, myself included, look for a reason to be optimistic about Robbie Anderson because we've seen him
Mm-hmm.
be productive before in the
And
past.
he's annoyingly good down the stretch, right? He's annoyingly
Sure.
good when you're getting to your fantasy playoffs because you've held on to him and held on to him, and then finally you dropped him because you're like, ugh. And then weeks, 12 through 15 back in the day, he suddenly blew up. So we're right there at that cusp of him doing really well, which it makes no scientific sense whatsoever. It's just that's what happens at fantasy football. Trends occur. So I could be totally wrong because that happens too. But yeah, I do like I don't have faith in it, but I like it, if
Yeah.
that makes
You
any
don't have
sense.
faith in No, it does. I don't think we have faith in much of the wide receivers outside of maybe the top couple that you're
Mm.
adding on any given waiver wire week.
Not
But
very
there's
sexy
enough
this week, except for Mooney.
there's enough potential, I think, with Anderson, given the
Yeah.
connection that he showed at least with Newton, and given what Newton could do for this offense. Again, the last time we've seen Newton throw the ball, he obviously had difficulties with his accuracy and everything like that. Maybe he's a little healthier. And either way, at least what we can say is that it's probably can't get worse than it was with Sam Darnold. So there's at
Yeah.
least that. And Brian Edwards, great point as well. I mean, somebody has to fill that void. Obviously, Deshaun
Mm-hmm.
Jackson is there. He only played 9 snaps. He had the one catch for 38 yards, but then he
Very
fumbled.
OBJ-esque.
But look, Edwards has seen 4 targets in 4 straight games and 5 of his last 6. So he's getting enough targets to perhaps matter more as a flex play. But yeah, the Raiders really have to get going. Let me throw two other names out there at you. Elijah Moore for the Jets, third straight productive game, but it was all garbage time here with the touchdown from Joe Flacco. So I guess let's start there. People are pretty excited about Elijah Moore. I'm a little less so right now. What do you think about him?
I'm on your side here. I understand the excitement behind Elijah Moore, especially with how much hype that he got in the offseason. For Dynasty, this is obviously a no brainer. He's not going to be available in Dynasty anyway, but he's one of those guys you hang on to and don't freak out too much. I don't. He's one of those guys who is likely to continue getting garbage time points. I can't rely on that, and I don't love it. But he's still an ad that I'm more than happy to put on my team if I have the room. I just really need to be careful when I play him. So
Yeah.
I'm not like scrambling to go pick him up. And plus, it's the Jets, so
That's
there's that.
always fade the Jets. Never, you rarely go wrong with that philosophy. And I think the biggest thing that I will say here is the fact that I wanted to see what it looked like with Corey Davis back, and I know that he did score the garbage time touchdown from Joe Flacco, but he really didn't play that many snaps. He was rotating in and out with Keelan
Hmm.
Cole behind Corey Davis, behind Jameson Crowder. So I'm really just not sure the production is going to be there
Yeah,
just
Zach
yet.
Wilson loves Corey Davis too. So
Yeah, I'm interested to see what it looks like with
yeah,
Wilson back here, right? With it. But, you mentioned this guy's name and we kind of glossed over it, and I don't think anybody's really looking at him. So maybe I'm off base here. I have mild interest in Marcus Johnson right now. And I think the reason for me, Lauren, is because you look at the 3 games that he has played without Julio Jones in the lineup, and he has seen 5, 5, and 6 targets. I mean, that's all right. From a quarterback right now like Ryan Tannehill and an offense like that, like we desperately search for who's the guy going to be other than AJ Brown in the passing game. Maybe it's Marcus Johnson. So not somebody I'm like going crazy over or anything like that, but he's a guy who I'm probably willing to add along the likes of a Robbie Anderson and a Brian Edwards. What do you think? Because I feel like I'm out on an island a little bit with this one.
I don't think so. I will go and hang out with you on your island, Dan, and
Yes.
we can name it something fun and start a club if you want, as long as I'm president. That's how those things
Yes,
work.
I
I
see
do
it.
like Marcus Johnson. I do very much, but I don't have I don't, like you said, I'm not running out to the waiver wire to, burn a priority on him or anything like that. In fact, I think I'm waiting until after waivers process to see if he's
Yes.
still available and then to stash him if I have room, because he is very intriguing. It isn't because we don't really know what the Titan we don't know what the Titans are going to do, right? They obviously have to replace Derrick Henry, but that's impossible to do. You have to do it with multiple different pieces, mold them into one, and add, like, a semi truck or a tank in order to create what Derrick Henry was. But they're making do and they're figuring out how to do that. And Marcus Johnson was a big part of that, especially without Julio Jones, like we saw. And he was reliable. And that is what Ryan Tannehill needs right now is reliable chain movers and scoring that they can constantly come back and win and get further along than they already are. Like you said, they already lead the division. So they're in the right place and they're going to keep doing what is working. And so far that's been relying on pieces like Deontay Foreman, on Adrian Peterson, obviously AJ Brown, but Marcus Johnson is making a serious argument for his name to be in that mix. I just don't know if I believe it quite yet, but I don't want to be behind the ball on this. I want to have him on my bench and see where it goes over the next 2 weeks and then be like, I was the one that picked him up from the waiver wire and I'm happy with my fantasy, playoff schedule here because I know Marcus Johnson is heavily involved.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anybody's really going to be wasting a waiver claim on him or spending
Right.
any fab on him. I think he's a guy you can just pick up after that and stuff like that. So we're going to very quickly, I'll ask a couple of other wide receivers. We'll touch quickly on quarterbacks and tight ends. Then we're going to get to questions. So if you're around, I know there's a lot of questions in the chat. Please keep asking. I will
Yes,
mention that.
please keep asking.
And like the video if you would. We've got over 400 people here, 56 likes. Got to give it a like. I will say that Brett Thunderstruck writes
Yes,
that
hey Brett.
Dan definitely strikes me as the club treasurer of the island that we are on,
Oh,
Lauren. So I think
yes,
that's right.
Brett.
I'll be the
I get it.
treasurer. You'll be the president.
Brett
I'll be the.
Thunderstruck is a good solid friend of mine. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate
Oh,
you.
Brett's here looking. Oh, your buddy. All right. Very good. Welcome, Brett. And thank you guys. You post some comments. We will get to it very shortly. Very quickly, Lauren. I'll just run through names. Only mention the names that you want. Okay. I'm going to give
Got
you
it.
like 5 names. Jamal Agnew, Amon-Ra St. Brown, both Saints receivers, and Traquan Smith and Deontay Harris. DeAndre Carter, who's caught touchdowns in both games, and Will Fuller, who might come back maybe one day, never. I don't know. Any of those names at all stick out to you? Someone you want to add?
No, boomer bust, low volume offenses. Stay away if you can. If you absolutely have to, you can go Deontay Harris or Traquan Smith. But again, low volume offense. Eh.
Good enough for me. Lauren, let's pretend you are in a single quarterback league. You are absolutely desperate for quarterback. You have nobody to start right now or into perpetuity. Is there anyone out there who is widely available who you think can solve your problems?
Mac Jones. Interesting name here.
Hmm.
Mac Jones. I think the training wheels are off for Mac Jones, and he started to play pretty impressively. Really impressively, actually. I was happy with what he was able to do. He scored his best fantasy game, I believe, this most recent weeks when they just completely pulverized the Browns. So I do like Mac Jones. They're facing Atlanta, fifth worst against the position. So I very much like Mac Jones. Obviously, Cam Newton. He is
Yeah.
14% rostered. Cam Newton is obviously going to be your must add. That's actually rest of season. But if you're streaming the position, my favorite one here is going to be Mac Jones. And you can always, this is going to sound terrible. I almost said slum it with Tyrod Taylor, but I kind of feel like that's where we're at right now. You know what I mean? Like he was so impressive his first 2 weeks, going over 20 fantasy points. When he was healthy and on the field, and then that game against Miami was atrocious.
Yeah.
But he does have a really good matchup, and the numbers are there, and he's only 5% rostered. So especially in deeper leagues.
I think the one thing I'll say about Tyrod Taylor is number one was his first game back. We saw Russell Wilson, how rusty you can be
Ugh.
in your first game back. Disgusting. And also, by the way, P.S., it sounds like Miami may actually have a defense that you want to avoid now, given what they've
Yes.
shown against the Ravens. So I'm willing to give him a pass for it. The only other guy I'll mention is against the Jets. It is Tua, who looks like
Yes.
he is fully healthy
Agreed.
now at this point, or
Agreed.
good enough that he can sort of exploit the matchup. I'm adding Cam personally just because I want to see where it goes, right? I think given his
Oh
goal
God,
line
me
back, right?
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please.
I was a
All
great
about that
moment.
life.
It was a great
I'm
moment when he's it was a great moment for him. So
back.
really interesting to watch, and he's a guy who I would add, even if I'm relatively solid at quarterback. I just want to see where it goes, especially with the goal line work.
Yeah, I
Tight
thought he
ends,
went through
Lauren.
puberty already, but I could be wrong.
Tight ends, Lauren. We've got look, the streaming tight end game at this point is kind of working for
Yeah,
fantasy managers
I
right
have
now. And
three.
oh, go, please.
Okay, I've got three of them. I'm going to start with the obvious one, Tyler Conklin. He really was able to produce in a very juicy matchup. So the Chargers secondary is actually quite stout, but they are very weak against tight ends. And when you stream this position, you're looking for matchup plays, and you're looking for those players who actually step up to the plate in matchup plays. And Tyler Conklin was able to do so against the Chargers. He scored 2 touchdowns. I like him a lot, around 35% rostered.
Yep.
The other one is one that I constantly forget about. I always forget about him, and I shouldn't. And when I think about him, I'm like, oh yeah, the tight end for the Panthers. He's not with the Panthers. He's the tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I
Yep.
can't get it straight. 26% rostered. He's seen 7 targets in his last 2 games, and he saw 10 targets the week before. And I don't know why I constantly just overlook him. And I'm just like, Dan, who?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's the guy for me. There's just 60 yards at least in three
Yeah,
straight games and four
he's
of his last
productive.
five. Dan Arnold just getting it
Yeah, but
done.
no one talks about him. And then my
Nobody
last
really
one's
likes him.
My
Good.
last one's a sneaky play. We're talking
Go.
about the Bears here, right?
Yes.
So I really like Cole Kmet.
Yes.
He's not exploding off the page with fantasy points, right? But Justin Fields, like we said, is getting better and better. He's getting a lot more comfortable. He reminds me of the Justin Field of college. When like the world was against him, he had 8 punctured lungs, a broken arm, and he's just like, whatever, I'm gonna go play, and was just
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic with this veteran poise. He's done so well. So he also really looks to Cole Kmet. He's only 15% rostered, and they have an excellent matchup, like we're saying, against Baltimore, who are very, very poor against
Oh,
the tight end
yes.
position. The rest of the weeks, they play Detroit and Arizona. Surprisingly, Detroit is pretty decent against tight end. So I don't love, the next 2 weeks after that. But this week, if you need to play, especially in deeper leagues, Cole Kmet is someone who's very quietly putting points on the board, and he's not giving you goose eggs, which is what we want to avoid.
I agree. I like Dan Arnold a lot. I like Cole Kmet, especially for this week, but
Can we
generally
name him
going forward.
something other than Dan Arnold so like he sounds exciting?
It's definitely, I feel like, players' names that sound kind of boring. I feel like it affects the way fantasy managers view them. I'm
It
not
does.
even
It does
joking
for
with this.
me. Like
You
I
know, I
can't. I
argued
need to
I
think
argued
of
in favor of Tim Patrick for like 8 weeks last year because I
me
was like,
too.
pick him up. Yeah. People don't like it. Dan Arnold has a very plain sounding name, but for a tight end,
Our
his
producer's
production,
laughing at us right now.
Chris laughs at us all the time. Everybody give Chris some love in the shout out.
Oh,
KRIS, by the
love.
way.
Yes, Chris
Um,
with a K.
Chris with a K, the dominant force behind our YouTube channel. Okay. So the one thing I will say is that like the production that Arnold gives you is just outside of the really elite tight ends, it's pretty
Consistent.
uncanny how
Yeah.
consistent he is. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe the upside isn't there because it's the Jaguars, fine. But I really think that there's just a lot of goodness here. So he is my top actually pickup, even above Conklin. Also, by the way, if Logan Thomas is still out there, I
Yes.
hope he comes back at this week. I know he had a little bit of soreness last week, but now Ricky Seals-Jones probably going to miss this game as well with his hip injury. So I think that's worth the pickup. Very good. Lauren, are you ready to do little questions?
Born ready, Dan.
Questions and answers. Okay, from Hunter Lockwood, is it time to move on from Dalton Schultz? If you can pick up somebody like Tyler Conklin.
That's an interesting question. I don't know about Tyler Conklin, but I might make that move for the ever exciting Dan Arnold.
Yeah, he
Michael
actually
Gallup, I
says
think.
in his thing that Dan Arnold is actually already rostered in his league.
Gotcha. Then I think I might want to hang on to Dalton Schultz. I'm scared about what Michael Gallup is going to do. You Tyler Conklin is going to be one of those pieces that is really going to explode for you in good matchups, I think. So I might want to hang on to Dalton Schultz in that one.
Yeah, I do have Dalton Schultz still higher than that. I agree, though. I'd be okay to make the swap for Dan Arnold, but if he is
Yes.
rostered, I would probably just hold on to it for there. From Josh Buckness, I think, or Butchness. Would you prefer Brandon Ayuk or Darnell Mooney rest of season?
Ooh, Darnell Mooney, but that is spicy. I do like Brandon
Yeah,
Ayuk very much. I just think Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay have this like serious like bro competitiveness going on with
yeah,
each other. So that game for the 49ers I think was a little bit more flash in the pan than 49ers fans are really going to want to admit to. So
yeah.
I would still think I would take Darnell Mooney there, but I do like Brandon Ayuk very much.
Yeah, that's really close for me. I think I probably have Mooney slightly ahead when I finish my updated
Yeah,
rankings.
it's close. It's not
It's
it's not
really
like a
close.
sorry, my hair's going up.
Your
It's
hair's
question answer time. It's time to get serious,
I
folks.
I think the hair going up means that you are in full on beast mode right now. Let's keep going
Full
with a
vacation mode,
full.
actually.
I love it. Jacob Glazer, a longtime listener and subscriber. Thank you, Jacob, for always being
Thanks,
here.
Jake.
Have PPR. Would you drop Emmanuel Sanders to pick up Michael Gallup?
Ooh, kind of a lateral move here.
Yep.
And we're talking about two very explosive offenses, both of which I do like very much. I think I actually might make this switch because I think that Michael Gallup is already has this kind of relationship with Dak Prescott. Whereas, and again, lots of mouths to feed in Dallas, also lots of mouths to feed here with the Bills. But Josh Allen also likes to rely on his legs a little bit. Gabriel Davis is starting to get more involved, and then Dawson Knox should be coming back a little bit more healthy next time. So I actually might make that switch and go for Michael Gallup over Emmanuel Sanders, but it is close.
I think I might too, Lauren. And
It's close.
I've been a huge Emmanuel Sanders fan. But I just think at this point, like, not really working with the way what the Bills are doing. It's Stephon Diggs, who you still roster and start every single week, of
Absolutely.
course, and Josh Allen, and that's kind of it at this
The
point.
only thing I will the only thing I will say
Yep.
here that to make sure you're 100% okay dropping Emmanuel Sanders is they just announced that Cole Beasley has been injured for the entire month of November.
Yes.
Thanks for
Very
letting
true.
us know.
Yeah,
Appreciate
very
you.
true. Look, he plays for
So
Spain, man. What do you
there's
want?
that, but still,
Yeah.
still, I think I might want to go. I think I might want to go Michael Gallup. It's tough though.
Yeah.
Use your gut on that one.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think if you have a personal preference, I'm okay with doing it. From Matt Derbaka, I think, is Russell Gage safe to drop? And he'll add the second one. If you have roster room, would you even bother stashing Calvin Ridley on the chance that he returns this year?
Absolutely. I would absolutely, if you have the room, I would absolutely roster Calvin Ridley. He has not been ruled out for the rest of the season.
Yep.
Lane Johnson missed several weeks to deal with his mental health
Yes.
issue, and he has come back stronger than ever. So you
Yep.
never know what is happening with Calvin Ridley right now. Best of luck to him. I understand completely what it's like to deal with these kind of mental issues. It's not fun. It's very hard, and I think that he's going to come back stronger than ever. Let's hope it's this season. So absolutely, I would spend a roster spot and hang on to Calvin Ridley.
And are you okay dropping Russell Gage?
Yeah,
Yep.
you might
I
have
agree.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Okay,
sees the targets,
man.
but
Every time I buy into Russell Gage, he just lets us down. So
I
I'm
know. I had
forget
such
it.
high hopes for him. He gets the targets, but the problem is they're not explosive, right?
Yeah.
And the explosive plays go to Olamide Zacchaeus. Like, what?
Hmm.
Why? But
Yeah.
he's like the poor man's version of Hunter Renfro, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
I would have someone a little bit more fantasy productive. Now watch as soon as this happens, he'll score like 25 fantasy points this week
That's
because
how it
that's
works. That's
how it
how it works.
works.
He'll be doing
Yay,
it on my bench,
fantasy.
though. Mark Anthony Manzo wins the award for most times asking a question, but he is here. We love that.
Hi, Mark Anthony.
Darrell Williams, or Wayne Gallman PPR. So, I mean, this might depend on whether or not Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back. So you can answer it both ways if you want, Lauren. Let's
Right.
assume Clyde Edwards-Helaire does come back, Williams or Gallman, and then assume that he doesn't come back.
Okay, pick up Gallman anyway, but I think you're
Hmm.
going to want to start Daryl Williams, especially in PPR formats. And I don't think it's going to matter whether or not Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on the field because Daryl Williams is still going to see a lot of work in the passing game. In fact, he had 100 yards receiving. 100 yards receiving as a
Yep.
running back against
Yep.
the Raiders. And Patrick Mahomes has finally started to trust himself and his pass catchers around him enough. That's why they won, and that's why they were very explosive in doing so, is that he finally was going underneath and feeling okay about it, which opened up the rest of the field for him. So I don't think Daryl Williams is going anywhere. He was one of those key pieces that Patrick Mahomes looked for first and second, not fourth or fifth or third or anything. He was one of those integral pieces. So whether or not CEH is back, I'm still rolling with Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week, but keep your eye on Wayne Gallman and see how he performs moving forward.
I agree on all accounts. From Pep222, would you prefer Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts for the rest of the season?
Ouch. Okay, I really like both of these quarterbacks, but I think let's go with some. I say longevity, but Jalen Hurts has been a little bit in the news about possibly getting benched. But I think I'm going to ride with Jalen Hurts here. I don't. Has he ever finished outside of QB1?
I mean, I think the biggest, what's funny is that, against the Lions, where they dominated the game and he just didn't have any touchdowns because all the running backs got it. It was like, darn, he let me down. But he's been playing so much better. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
that the pass volume is low right now, but I think that he's still able to succeed. So I agree with you.
Yeah,
That's where
it's
I
tough
have him.
though because I love Joe Burrow as
It's
well.
pretty
Love both of
close.
them.
It's pretty close. They're both going to be QB1s going forward. From Tam, would you prefer? Oh, this is just a this week question, so
Okay,
probably won't get into it, but you can answer rest of season or you can answer this week if you want. DJ Moore or Michael Gallup? Let's go rest of season starting, and then we can talk about this week. So rest of
let's
season, DJ Moore, Michael Gallup.
Oh, this is really tough. I think I'm going to still lean DJ Moore.
Yeah,
I do love Michael Gallup so much, but with Cam Newton as the now starter, wink, wink. I
yeah,
mean, not yet named starter, wink,
sure.
wink. It's going to be DJ Moore. That the explosive long plays are going to go to Robbie Anderson here. So yeah, I have a lot more faith in DJ Moore with this new starter under center.
Yeah, I will not hold you to this because it's weekly rankings, but obviously Michael Gallup goes up against Kansas City. DJ Moore, I mean, does have a great matchup against Washington that just gives up a ton of points to wide receivers. So
Revenge for
which
Cam
one would you
Newton.
rather start?
This week, I think I would go. I'm going to go with, you know what? I'm going to go DJ Moore.
Yeah,
This is a big revenge game for Cam Newton. He has a lot to prove. They're going up against, by revenge, because Ron Rivera used to be his
right.
head coach. They're still very good friends, from what I understand. Not that I know. But yeah, I would go DJ Moore here for upside.
I agree. I'm sticking with DJ Moore over Michael Gallup. From Luis Figueroa, would you drop Kadarius Toney?
Oy, if you need to make room, yes. Ugh, that sucks. I hate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you need someone that's going to be a starter that can give you volume, especially in PPR formats, yeah, Kadarius Toney, you can drop him.
All right.
Cry a little bit, that's fine.
Henry Kennedy asks if both AJ Dillon and Ramondre Stevenson are available, who would be your preference off waivers this week?
Ooh, yikes. This week or rest of season?
Well, I mean, you're making the claim right now, so you have your opportunity. Does it depend on whether you need a back this week or rest of season? For me, it's Dillon, just because I
Yeah.
think he's going to be the starter, unquestioned starter, probably for the next 2 weeks before their bye, and then
Mm-hmm.
he's probably going to be an okay flex play. So I do think that I would personally burn my waiver claim on him over Stevenson, even though I love Stevenson.
Yes, I agree. I think they're both kind of in the same situation right now because I also think Ramondre Stevenson can be a solid flex opportunity for you with Damian Harris back.
Also, yep,
What I'm going to look at here is what AJ Dillon. Let's say that Aaron Jones gets hurt for rest of season, and then
yep.
Damian Harris gets hurt for the rest of the season. Which offense do I think is going to use their running back more? I think it's going to be the Packers. So I think I'm going to if they're almost the same type of player here that we're talking about for the possibility of the future, I'm going to go AJ Dillon.
Yeah, I agree. AJ Dillon for me as well. From Justin Gray, would you prefer rest of season, Tyler Lockett, and he says versus Christian? I'm going to assume he means Christian Kirk. Rest of season in a PPR format. So Kirk probably does a little better there because he has a pretty reliable floor. But what do you think here? Tyler Lockett versus Christian Kirk, rest of season
I'm
PPR.
going upside with Tyler Lockett. I'm
Yep.
doing it. I know we had a terrible game from Russell Wilson. Apologies to everyone who I said start Russell Wilson. Didn't know it was gonna be that bad. My bad. But
I
yeah,
mean,
Dan. It was Dan's fault. He told
it
me to say
was.
it.
I
It
did.
was.
It
He
is.
did. So you should. You need to apologize to the masses, Dan. I'm telling you, Tyler Lockett for me.
I agree, Tyler Lockett, and yes, I have much to apologize for, as I do most weeks. And I will say again, I've said this before, but people in our position, Lauren, I feel so much worse about giving out
It's
advice
so bad.
that goes wrong than I do about anything I do
Oh.
with my own
Oh,
teams.
I
Like,
know, it's terrible. Like, I will
uh,
literally find people that I've given advice to, and
yep.
I will personally apologize. Like, it breaks my heart, like, to watch this because 'cause I'm like, "No, what have I done?" Like, we put a lot of time and effort into this to make sure that we give everybody the best advice possible,
I will
and it doesn't
say,
always work
I
out.
I will say that, you see stories, and I've had in the past of people who are really obnoxious, when they get advice that leads them astray and they send people rude messages, stuff like that. I basically have not had that
Me
whatsoever this whole
neither.
year. Like,
Me neither.
the community really, at least
We
our
have a good
community,
community here,
it's been
especially these
great.
people who have liked our video and who are
Look at
commenting right now and
you.
asking us
Look at you
questions.
guys. I love it. All right. Keep going with Dylan because I guess he's available here for a
Do
few
it.
people. Anthony S., would you drop Tony Pollard to add AJ Dillon?
Oh, no. I would not do that, although it is so difficult to want to pass up on AJ Dillon. If there's somebody else that you can possibly drop to add AJ Dillon and have Tony Pollard, that's what I would do. But if we're talking about a straight switch between Tony Pollard and AJ Dillon, unless you really, really need a win, and that's absolutely the only way that you're going to get into the playoffs, then I could understand. But Tony Pollard, man, he's productive every week. That's really tough. That's
Fr-
really, really tough.
It is close. I think I lean Dylan just because I know he's got the role right now, and he basically offers the same high end insurance policy value. I feel like that Pollard does, but both guys obviously need to be rostered. I would be looking for somebody else to drop if I absolutely could.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Robert Coleman, I guess just general thoughts on Jarvis Landry, and would you drop him for somebody like Rashad Bateman or Elijah Moore?
First of all, yes. Second of all, let me go get my Pepto Bismol and cry tears of absolute misery and sadness. Oh, Jarvis Landry, you've caused
Yeah.
me nothing but angst and pain. That's my general thoughts on Jarvis Landry. They're not
I
good.
rank I rank him way too high every single week, and I
Yes,
I
it's
try to
so
and
hard.
I run the projections, and I'm like, all right, you're kind of like a wide receiver three. I'll get you here, and people are like this guy, and I'm like, yeah, I'll lean Landry, and then he's just a constant letdown,
Specifically,
unfortunately.
Rashad Bateman. Go get him. But yeah,
Yes,
get rid of
Rashad
Landry.
Bateman is the guy. I agree with you, by the way. Thank you for answering that part of it. I agree. Rashad Bateman is a guy we recommended on waivers several weeks. Finally, people seem to have caught on after his big Thursday night performance. So hopefully that's what we've got going forward. Again, a lot of Ramondre Stevenson questions right now. So Shifty Fox, rest of season, half PPR, so normal.
Hmm.
Would you prefer Ramondre Stevenson or Javonte Williams?
Ooh,
Tough.
interesting. That is tough. I'm gonna go Javante Williams, but
Yeah.
by a little bit, not very much. But I'm gonna lean Javante Williams.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that that is what I would do, and I understand that people are upset because he's not taking on a bigger workload. But even in his current situation, he's a weekly guy you can throw out there for sure.
Yep.
Defense question, Lauren. Everybody loves it. Is the Rams DST worth holding on through the bye? Because this guy who is Ethan is concerned about their rest of season schedule, which is, I will lay it out for you, at Green Bay, so not a great matchup. Jacksonville, great matchup. At Arizona, you assume Kyler Murray is going to be healthy by then, so not a great matchup. Seattle doesn't give up a crazy amount of points, generally speaking. Then Minnesota, then Baltimore. It's not the greatest closing schedule for a defense that really should be elite, but does get burned sometimes. If you have them, Lauren, are you trying to hold on to them, or are you just cycling through your DSTs?
I actually have them in several leagues, and I am dropping them because I stream my defensive position all the time, and I also don't hold on to more than one. So I know a
Yeah.
lot of people like to hoard defenses, but it's no, you don't need to do that. You can drop the Rams, especially if you need to make room for playmakers. Absolutely.
Shout out, by the way, to our commenter, Average Boss. Thank you, by the way, for commenting, guys. You can, if you are a subscriber, that's how you can comment, by the way, who is saying that if we do want disgruntled message from fantasy fans, he is more than happy to oblige, and he is starting to send them in good natured, of course, good natured ones in the comments. So I really do appreciate that. So from Taylor says, who should I pick up if all of these guys are available? The aforementioned Jarvis Landry, Darnell Mooney, who we talked about, or Corey Davis, somebody who we didn't talk about because he's generally rostered in multiple leagues. So Landry, Mooney, or Corey Davis, who's your number one?
Landry. Oh, number one to drop
I
and
was
not
like,
go
wait,
after
you
as
just
Landry.
said get rid of him. Yeah,
Mooney. Darnell
Mooney.
Mooney is my number one. After that, Corey Davis, also very interesting, but I think Mooney has the higher upside than Corey Davis. And just let your eyes glaze right over Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, 6 of one, half a
Right
dozen
over.
of the other, a little bit between Mooney and Corey Davis. I
See,
do
I
think with
think I think Mooney has
yeah,
the upside.
I think it's a fair point. I think the biggest thing for me is I want to see what happens when Zach Wilson, who loves Corey Davis, comes back and see what we have here. But I have no problem with going with Mooney over him. I am excited about Darnell Mooney for sure. From
True.
Michael, would you hang on to Dearness Johnson after Nick Chubb comes back, which I presume is going to be this week? That's what everything suggests. And again, Kareem Hunt probably out at least a few more weeks at this point. That's what all the tea leaves are saying here.
Yes, you want to hang on to Dearness Johnson.
Yeah, I agree. And again, there's my garage door for everybody who's enjoying it. As our producer knows, there is not a live stream or a podcast that I do where my wife does not somehow open the garage door. I don't know where she's going all the time, but hopefully it's someplace better than here talking to me. Okay, let's keep going right now. I agree with you, by the way. I would hold on to Dearness Johnson.
Yes.
Because again, high-end insurance policy value at the very least, because you see what he does every time he gets the ball. But I feel like he's also carved out like more of the Kareem whole, Kareem Hunt role, right?
Yep.
So that's
A
where I would
cream
go.
hole.
The Kareem hole, I don't know what that is.
Sounds terrible.
That is terrible. Don't go there.
Oh my god,
by
if
the
you
way.
guys should see the look on my producer's face, it's hilarious. Kareem Hunt
Yeah,
roll.
I really
is
do
what we
think
meant
that
to
we should
say.
be able to find a way to get Chris onto this live stream, because I do
I know,
think
I
that
think
people would
so.
enjoy just
like
watching
a
him.
little, just like a little headshot in the corner. You know what I mean?
Just
So
on the
everyone can
side.
see all of his amazing faces he makes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk from Ram. If Kyler cannot go this week, which by the way is what I expect, how comfortable would you feel starting Justin Fields? They get Baltimore.
Yeah, I don't have a problem starting Justin Fields. He is really starting to use his legs. I think that Baltimore can give up points to opposing offenses and opposing quarterbacks. I don't have a problem with it at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I'm probably going to rank him outside of the top 12 range, of course, but I do think that, Fields is talented. They seem to have figured out how to accentuate his skill set. So I am liking what I'm seeing. I think you can probably get away with it as you can with like probably 18 guys. So I could live with it. Let's go to Michael Sullivan. He asked a question, Lauren, that we actually talked about today on our rest of season podcast that I did with Pat Fitzmaurice. We both gave our thoughts. So tune into that for my thoughts on this. But Lauren, your thoughts, please. I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams. Are we at all concerned that this backfield is going to be a split going forward once Edwards-Helaire comes back?
I think it will be a split, but not as drastic and dramatic as we may fear that it could be. We mentioned this before already. Darrell Williams is the pass-catching running back. He had 100 yards receiving against the Raiders. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if he can fill the line of scrimmage role, it's really going to accentuate their offense significantly. And I don't think Darrell Williams is going anywhere. I don't think he can go anywhere because of what he's able to provide to the offense. So will it be a split? Yes. In standard, I'd rather have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. In PPR formats, I'd rather have Darrell Williams.
I mean, I do think Williams was carving out a role for himself even before.
Even with Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the field.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So I think both guys are going to be relatively valuable for rest of season, but I think neither one is going to reach the apex of their value that we think they can have. From George, Corey Davis or Emmanuel Sanders rest of season?
Oh, that's so hard. Oh my, I really want to say Emmanuel Sanders, but I can't. I think I'm going to go Corey Davis.
Yeah, I
Ouch.
think that's
That
right.
hurts.
It's tough. I really like Emmanuel Sanders. There's
Me
just no
too.
consistency there. And it's not like it's necessarily been there for Corey Davis, but I think the chances of it are there for that. How about let's go to Mark Juarez. Would you drop Pat Freiermuth for Hunter Henry? He also says he has Noah Fant. I don't know why we need this many tight ends, but I guess rest of season, who do you prefer, Freiermuth or Hunter Henry?
Give me Hunter Henry. I like Hunter Henry.
Someone's got to figure this out for me with Hunter Henry. Like, it's hard for me to basically accept that a guy's going to get like 3 targets every single game, but he is going to score a touchdown almost without fail.
It's crazy.
Stop doing this. I rank him incorrectly every single time because I look at it. Look, you watch that game against Cleveland and you see the way they design their plays as they get closer to the end zone. Henry is
it's
the
Hunter
option.
Henry.
That's where they want to go. Now, I love Pat Freiermuth. I personally will go with Pat
too.
Freiermuth because of the targets, but I'm going to probably fade Hunter Henry right out of the playoffs because I'm an idiot. So that's how we're going to do that one. Okay, how about would you drop from Chris Miranda? Would you drop Van Jefferson? A little disappointing last night, as was
Mhm.
everything essentially for the
Everything was
Rams. But
disappointing.
stock is up, of course, with the Robert Woods injury for him. Would you drop Van Jefferson to pick up either Rashad Bateman or Mooney or Gallup?
Yes, for Bateman or Mooney. Yes, I don't have a problem doing that.
I think I'm holding Jefferson. I don't know. I
I don't
want to
hate
see
that
where it
either,
goes.
though. I
Yeah.
really don't hate that either. I just have a personal preference to go for the Baltimore option here with Rashad Bateman, who just is not going away, despite Marquise
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown not going away and the
Yep.
run not going away.
Yeah.
In Mooney, I like being very explosive with the Bears getting better and better, and they're likely going to be playing from behind, which means Justin Fields is going to be needing to look at Mooney to make his fun, creative, explosive plays. The thing with Van Jefferson is I do still like him. I don't think he's a must drop. But Van Jefferson is probably going to be eclipsed by Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens with that offense. I honestly have no idea. I have concerns about Matthew Stafford, who has made it 2 weeks in a row where he's just given the opposing team 14 points to start the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing.
Not a great effort here on a primetime game. I think Jefferson, regardless of Odell, will probably have a role because I thought that he would with Deshaun Jackson out. I figured that. So even if he is still that third wide receiver, he's somebody who I'm willing to roster, and I'm
Yeah, I
sort of
don't hate it.
excited about. Yep. Okay, let me see. I've got a couple of other ones here. Anthony says, would you trade Keenan Allen for AJ Dillon?
Oh, that's really going to depend on what your wide receivers look like. And
Yeah.
Keenan Allen's a really solid piece, and how desperate you are for running back.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's unfair. Um, I mean, maybe a little lopsided here in favor of Keenan Allen. But if you really are desperate to get a starting running back who's going to absolutely get work within the next one, possibly 2 weeks, and you need that to make your push to the playoffs, I 100% understand the justification for that. It's just really going to be dependent on what your needs are.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum, Keenan Allen's probably worth a little more just because of most
Yes,
likely the short shelf life here that we've got for AJ Dillon. But I think it's like you said, Lauren, it's an absolutely acceptable
it's
trade
yeah.
if you need a running back. Let's see. How about from Daryl? What are your thoughts just overall on Daryl Henderson? Is he a buy low after last night's game? He only got 5 carries, so obviously a down game for him. And now they have the bye coming up. Are you optimistic on what we'll see rest of season?
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. He's an
Yep.
RB1 that you can add in at a pretty inexpensive price tag. So,
Yep.
absolutely.
I completely agree. How about Rick says, would you drop if you had to drop one of these guys, you could for a pickup, would you drop McKissick or would you drop Mark Ingram?
Wait, okay. So my thing cut out there. Mark
Sorry.
Ingram or McKissick for who?
Either one. Forget it. Let's say you have to make a pickup. You have to make a
Okay.
pickup at this week. You've got to drop one of them. Which one are you dropping?
McKissick.
I agree. I think you
McKissick.
keep Mark Ingram. I mean, obviously Kamara's
Yeah.
injury, but regardless, I mean, I think that right, he's sort of somebody who can be a sorry, whew, I'm getting a lot
He's
of
relevant.
messages coming through. He is
He's
definitely
relevant.
relevant going forward as a flex play, even
Mm-hmm.
if Alvin Kamara is there. I think JD McKissick is very game script dependent. So
Yes.
that's where I am. All right, looking for a couple more questions here. Okay. Let me just get a couple that I want to. Did that. Ooh, I'm getting to a lot of questions. Look at us. Okay. Chris Miranda, would you drop in a full PPR league? So this is where Kenyon Drake is a little more valuable. Would you drop Kenyon Drake to pick up Ramondre Stevenson?
No, I would not drop Kenyon Drake. The reason why is he is really eating into Josh Jacobs' fantasy production. Change of coaching, $11 million guaranteed has a lot to do with that. So I think
Mm-hmm.
Kenyon Drake is very valuable,
Yep.
whether or not Josh Jacobs is on the field.
Okay. From Tam has to drop one of these receivers because he
Okay.
has to activate Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay.
Mike Williams,
Ooh.
Michael Pittman,
Hmm.
or Van Jefferson.
Oh, Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I
In
think,
that one, it's going to be Van Jefferson.
yeah, I think that is right. From Jimmy Duke, would you drop Tim Patrick to pick up Darnell Mooney?
Ooh. Yeah. I think I would. I think
Yep.
I think I would because I like the upside a little bit better for Darnell Mooney, but I have this like really probably need therapy infatuation with Tim Patrick,
Yeah.
which makes it very
I,
difficult for me to drop him. But the smarter move here would be to drop him for Darnell Mooney. But I love Tim Patrick.
there's just so many options right now in that
Love him.
Broncos receiving game, given the fact that there isn't that many targets to go around. I mean, with Judy, we see Cortland Sutton get squeezed out. It's not just Noah Fant, but also Albert O, and also both running backs get involved in there. So, it's just something where I'm not optimistic on what we're going to see really from anybody other than Judy and the running backs here. How about Jonathan asked a trade question? Would you trade Darrell Henderson and Tyler Lockett to add Cooper Kupp?
Oh my goodness.
That's a big one.
That is a, but I think that might be fair.
Yeah.
Ha!
Yeah.
That is steep. That is really steep because I love Tyler Lockett and I love Darrell Henderson, but you're talking about a low end RB1 and you're talking about a possible boomer bust in Tyler Lockett to get the number one wide receiver in fantasy football right now.
Yep.
I
No.
don't know if
I,
I hate that.
I don't either. I mean, I think it's a pretty fair deal in a
It
vacuum.
just
And
it seems so expensive that I'm like, I don't want to touch it because it's I'll break it.
I
Like,
think the
oh,
thing is you have to overpay when you're getting like the truly elite players, right? Like in a vacuum, you might say, okay, this is too much. But if you want that truly elite player, I think you have
especially
to give it
this
up.
time of year.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
How about hold on, I got one. Okay, I got it. Kyle asks, he needs wide receiver help, Lauren.
Okay.
He wants to know if he should trade James Robinson for either Adam
Mm.
Thielen or Deontay Johnson.
Oh, I don't know, man. Trading away your RB1 position, ew. Unless James Robinson is simply a flex play and you already have your two stud running backs, maybe they're already after their bye, and you have an insurance policy for one of those players already, I can understand wanting to get rid of James Robinson, but I think you can get a little bit more than someone than we said Deontay Johnson, right?
Correct.
And who was the other one?
Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen. I don't know. That's tough. I think you can get a little bit more for that, in my opinion. I do love Adam Thielen and I do love Deontay Johnson, but that you're giving up an RB1 that deserves more. So if you got both of them, then I would say yes. But I, on the surface of that, I think you're giving up too much in James Robinson.
Yeah, I think when you're giving up a guy who really is at worst a solid RB2, we saw him come back despite the injury and he
At
performed
worst,
well.
yep.
It's very difficult to give it up, even though I would, love to add both Deontay Johnson more so even than Adam Thielen, but either
Right.
one of those
Yep.
guys is great. All right. That is going to do it here for the waiver wire. Our hour is up. Thank you, everybody who is here, who subscribed, who liked. Don't forget our giveaway on Sunday morning. Make sure you come by. Amari Cooper signed jersey. All you got to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel before the noon live stream and then ask a fantasy related question in that live stream to Kyle Yates and we will pick a lucky winner at the end of that live stream. So make sure you stay on throughout. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me. I will say personally, I think that your advice was pure, unadulterated fire today. So well
Thank
done
you.
for you. I appreciate it. In the meantime, you know the deal, guys. We'll be back later with podcasts, all the videos, all the stuff that we do rest of the week. So take care. Enjoy the rest of your week.